Medicine.
Thank you.
Oh, Jennifer's here.
Hey.
Hey. Oh, you don't need this is where my name tag is, right?
I don't know.
Is
No clue.
Is that where her name tag? Austin, am I in the right spot? Okay, cool.
Everybody's moving on.
All right. We ready to get started, Austin?
Make sure your microphones are on.
Mine is on. All right. All right, let's call this Parks Rec and Greenway Board meeting on to order on Tuesday, February 6th at 9 a.m. exactly.
Shocking.
2024. Sorry, forgot that part. All right, so we do not have remote participation. Would anyone like to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Unless anybody's got changes.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Everybody in favor? All right. And previous minutes. Any changes to the previous minutes? Nope. Motion to adopt the previous minutes?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Awesome. All right, we're moving right along.
We're good at this part.
We are. We are like a machine.
Didn't used to be.
All right, also, I forgot the verbal acknowledgement. We have a quorum. Everybody's here.
This is as good as we can do.
Yeah, that's right. And no public? No. Oh, actually, yes, I look up.
I forgot to sit out a sheet this morning. Sir, did you wish to speak to today's meeting? No, I'm just here to listen.
Okay, all right, fantastic.
Enjoy.
Yeah, I started to say no public, no comment before my eyes actually went up and scanned the room. So welcome, enjoy. All right, so let's get to Parks and Rec updates. Tyler, I believe that's you.
All right, how's everybody doing? So, update on event planning. We have the Easter egg hunt coming up on March 23rd. It'll begin at 10 a.m. If anyone is available to come and hang out, I don't know how much necessarily labor we'd need from everybody, but it's good. I think it'll be a nice morning. We'll start at 10 a.m. There will be 3 separate hunts by age, 0 to 3-year-olds at 10, and then 11:15 will be 4 to 6-year-olds, and then at 12:30 we'll do 7 to 10-year-olds. We'll kind of have it people rotating in and out. We got a bunch of pre-filled eggs on the way. So looking for that to be a little bit of fun, trying to find a little Easter Bunny costume, get somebody in that. Any volunteers on that?
Not here.
Unfortunately.
My brother's birthday.
Yeah.
I'm a volunteer hunter, personally.
I second that.
Sorry.
I second it.
Yeah.
Yeah, all in favor?
But yeah, that's pretty much what's going on in March, and then Marvin Day, April 27th. That'll be starting at 4 in the afternoon. That'll be a great opportunity for everybody to come out. We'll definitely have some volunteer opportunities for anyone that would like to chip in on the board. Yeah, and then June 1st is, yes, sir.
Has an agenda been set for Marvin Day? What are the activities that have been finalized?
Yeah, so I can shoot you over I have like a brochure that we can show you guys. I think I have some out front. It's going to be, we have the Breakfast Club playing the music. We have 3 food trucks, 1 dessert food truck, a beer vendor. Then we have a kids fun zone. We have obstacle course, bounce house. Then we had like face painting, hair tinsels, and magic show, or Mr. Marvel is like a magic show, balloon time type vendor.
So it's primarily a family activity this time?
Yeah, tonight, yeah, we just kind of condensed everything to the evening time. Music will start at 6, fireworks will be at 9:15, 9:30 when the band concludes, and that'll conclude the event. But yeah, it's just a lot of returning vendors, but we just crunched it, and the kids' fun zone will be great, and it is for the families and everything, but if you're just an adult, there's going to be really good food trucks, a really good Americana Breweries, a really good brewery out of Monroe, I believe.
Will the fireworks show be at the park again?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Any other Marvin Day questions?
Are they still doing the race that day, or are they doing a race at all?
So we've made the race a separate event, so we're gonna do the 5K on June 1st. We're still playing with a couple of the details. We're actually gonna play with that some today at the Marvin Day Subcommittee meeting. But iron out those details, but we have the same vendor coming back. We're actually gonna change the location, to Eford Park. We're gonna have them do the 5K on the trails there, kind of try to highlight that. And we're still going to try to make it a health fair. I believe we'll have a couple, vendor booths and the blood drive truck, yes. So looking to make it kind of also a family fun, kind of a hangout that morning, coffee truck, stuff like that.
I think the idea of doing on the trail is excellent. We had a lot of good press from the Heritage Festival doing a trail run. Not many of those around, and that one's not anymore either, so.
Right, and that one's,
One of the few trail runs in the area.
and I think it'll be cool. I had the guy, who's kind of like managing, running the 5K for us. He came out, and it'll be like 3 laps around the trail, and then utilize some of the actual like land area, kind of run around, like, you know, kind of, they're gonna,
There's all those little cut throughs.
right.
Okay.
So that it's gonna be, it'll be a nice little,
It'll
a
be a
nice,
lot of fun.
right.
Not, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Well, then we'll do the adult run at, right now, we're thinking 9 a.m. for the real 5K, and then a kids' fun run at 10. So,
The only problem with that is that I don't see how Councilman Mark Alesi can lead it in his motorcycle.
That's true.
yeah.
But otherwise, no, I think it sounds like a blast.
Yeah, the trail idea is great. That's great.
I might run it this year.
Let's not get crazy. But, yeah, that's all for events. Any events questions coming up?
All right,
All right. And then I'll go ahead and on the updates on trails and greenways.
absolutely.
Not a ton to report on. We halted the construction for the connector, and then the only other,
Connector?
the Marvin Creek
Yeah.
North Connector, so that one is on a pause. And then,
Because of the floodplain.
and we're working out here in the upcoming, I believe not this regular meeting, but the next regular meeting, Hunter and I will have hopefully an update on the final route of Tullamore, of the Phase 4 of Tullamore, a final landing destination where it's going to end. So that's pretty much the only updates on trails right now.
Okay.
So Tullamore currently connects, you know, you do the loop, Tyler, you know,
Mm-hmm.
pick up the concrete path once you,
Mm-hmm.
and then you loop completely back and backtrack. Are you talking about doing another connecting?
Just where, so like the original Phase 4 was going to come through, and I get a little turnaround with the geography. I kind of need Hunter sometimes. So the towns of Ardrey, where we were working on getting the easement through them.
For Andy's, the connector to Andy's.
Oh, is that what you're discussing?
Yeah, the 4th.
Over on the other side of Amber Meadows.
Originally, it was intended to connect Amber Meadows and Tullamore Trails together with, and then we could build a future connector off of that in the future to
Correct.
connect to the commercial
Correct.
corridor.
That's my understanding.
We've been struggling to acquire that easement and been trying
Right.
to reroute, and we think we're finally coming to a solution.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a wonderful trail.
Oh, yeah. But that's pretty much all I got on that.
All right, fantastic. All right, moving on to unfinished business. Discussion of tree nursery. You have some thoughts on that?
I do. So I talked to Keith O'Haron, Keith O'Haron, and asked him about it.
There's some
And
background.
it was probably the fastest response I've ever gotten from him. I mean, he always, answers your emails, but it was like he was waiting for this. He is he's creating a tree nursery at Parkwood Middle School, which I'm not entirely sure where it is, but it's near here somewhere. Monroe? Okay, not that near then, but it's in the county. And they just started, I guess, last year. And he sent me some pictures if anybody wants to see it. But basically, it's, if you've ever been to some of the larger nurseries, that landscape material that's black and kind of woven, they've laid that out, and then they've literally got bags they're growing the trees in. And I had a couple questions. They were really far apart. I'm not sure why they did that. But anyway, they're close to a water source. And they had, I don't remember the exact number, but I think they started with 200 trees, which is a lot of trees. I know. And so they are growing them in soil. And then they plan this year to pop those up and start another 250, so it must be going well. I mean, middle schoolers, a lot of energy.
When you say bags, so sitting above the ground, so
Yep.
you've got the landscape fabric
Yes.
down.
They are,
And then
lit-
they take, do they use just like the soil bags and put them in?
it looks like the kind, I've grown stuff in these before, they're kind of almost like felt. They're pretty heavy,
Burlap,
but,
kind of, not as heavy.
actually, they looked denser than that, but I haven't been out there to look at them. But I know what he's talking about, but I think, and they're relatively inexpensive, probably a little bit more environmentally friendly than a plastic.
Well, it creates a good root ball.
Exactly, because you can get a, yeah. So he said, first of all, he thought it was a great idea for us to do something like this, so, thanks. But, I thought so too. But he said you gotta make sure you've got the ability and the willingness to water. So, you can't just rely on the weather. You need space for it, and you need time. And his thought was, if you want 50 trees a year, which doesn't sound like a lot, then you need space for 200 trees, because it's gonna take you about 5 years or 250, right? About 5 years to get them from babies on up. Depends on how big you want the trees to be, obviously. If you're happy to plant, a tree this big, that's gonna take 3 years maybe. If you want bigger, it takes longer. Here's the other problem with the method that they're going with at the school. I have a feeling they're gonna plant smaller trees, because think about how big, I'm sure you guys have planted the big trees before. You need heavy equipment to move that around. The ones we do for Arbor Day are 15-gallon trees, and they are heavy.
We can't move, yeah.
Yeah, and
It
luckily,
takes
the
2 or 3 of us to move them.
Yeah, and all we're doing is dragging them into a hole that we're dropping them in. The guys at the school move them for us. So, he said the heavy problem, and the other thing you have to worry about is wildlife and human damage. It's one thing for a deer to eat my tree, it's another thing for some kid to knock it over. I have different feelings about both of those things. So all that, things to keep in mind. He also gave me information, though, on a different method, and I have not done any research to find out how much this would cost, but the idea is you start with bare root trees, you build a gravel pit for them, and you grow them in the gravel. Have you heard of anything like this before? I hadn't either. You grow them in gravel. They stay bare root. Obviously, when you're done, when they're wherever they grow faster. I didn't know that, but when you're ready to dig them out, you kind of dig out the tree, and it's got all these roots, but very little soil in it, because no soil, because there's none in there. It might have some sand on it. You wash the roots off, and you go plant the tree. Probably any of us could pick that tree up and go plant it.
I imagine, though, you're having to fortify the water that you're doing with a lot of chemicals. 'Cause that's where they're
Well, not necessarily, it's some kind of fertilizer. It doesn't have to be chemical-based, it could be organic-based. Yeah, but you're gonna have to feed the other ones too. So you're gonna have to fertilize the other ones as well. So he said that he thought this was a cool idea, he hadn't done it, but it may be something to look into. My guess is the upfront cost would be a bit more than the other. You're not buying bags, you're not buying soil. You do have to build this pit thing. I don't know. Anyway, it's something to think about. You still got the watering costs, or situation, you still got the space issues, and you still got wildlife and human damage potential. So there's just two different ways to think about doing this.
The gravel idea is interesting, insofar as when you pull that tree out, it is bare root. So
Yep.
how long do you have before you have to plant?
Right, so then not long. So you would go harvest them and go plant as soon as you could, but you can wrap them up. And you can even, if you've got a bit of mulch or compost or something, you just wrap them up in moist, just like you do if you get bare root plants, right? They deliver them to you, and if you've got to hold them a little while, I just wrap them up in something wet and keep them like that until I go plant them. Their survival rate was really good, too. They've been running a study on it. I think they started this particular one that I had the information on, years ago. And their survival rate was really good. And most of the time, the problems that they had with death were wildlife and human.
damage.
Yeah, and mostly human.
Yeah, Christina, if you look at the two techniques, wouldn't that be dependent on the end user? What's easiest for the end user?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm trying to sell trees doing plant auctions, raising
Yep,
money
yep.
for marshland or something else. Whatever's easiest for the end user seems to be the most logical thing, because to get people to participate, they don't have soil at their house. They don't. They're gonna want to bring the tree in with the soil and,
Then it needs to be a really small tree, because
Yeah.
we cannot give them a 15-gallon tree,
Well, it's just
I
like
think.
you said, well, that'd be the limit.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be the limit. Some people can use them, some people can't.
I mean, I don't even know how they would transport them.
But I think that would be.
I think that's a good, that you're
And
right.
I think the other question is, how are we, and we've talked about the tree nursery, which is a great idea. But I think we need a plan for how we're gonna use the tree nursery.
I agree. Who is the end user? You just said that.
And who's gonna manage it?
Oh, well, yeah.
Matt? No.
Well, exactly. I'm surprised they're still sitting here. I would have run out the room.
No, I'm teasing about that.
No, but
I would
that,
love for us to really come up with a plan and details and get on with this, because I think it's a great idea.
well, so you bring up really good points. Who is the end user? And is it multiple end users? Is it the village planting in these areas that Marsh doesn't have trees for anymore, in these kind of common areas in neighborhoods, filling in those buffer zones? So the gravel thing would work fine for that. Either method would work fine for that, I think. And/or is it individuals who want to purchase a tree?
Can I ask another question?
No. Yes.
So while we focus on, can it be trees and or shrubs, native shrubs?
Could be whatever
A
you.
lot of people are looking for shrubbery to make buffers with, not just necessarily.
And I think that look is much better too. It's a denser, multi-level look.
So as we do this,
I like that.
I really like to think about not only trees, but the shrubs as well.
And honestly, it might be easier to find some of those plants too. Here's one of the problems that I didn't put down on my list here, but we all know it's true. It's hard to find the baby plants to start with. And it's not like you're going to start growing from acorns, I mean, you can, but that's a slow process. And that's been one of the problems that even the North Carolina Wildlife Federation has had trouble finding native trees and shrubs that are available out and about, that are the proper size. You can find.
Do they not propagate well from cuttings?
People just don't propagate them because they're busy making all the plants that are all over Lowe's, because that's where the money is, right? And it's easier today than it was 5 years ago, than it was 10 years ago. And absolutely, if somebody or a handful of somebodies wanted to start propagating off of the plants that they already have, we could start up something. But that's a whole different level than this. That's kind of in your back room with some lights and stuff, some grow lights. But easy enough to do. And it's about time to start doing those kind of cuttings anyway. It's a good time, early spring. So those are things that we need to think about. I love the idea of adding shrubs. The problem is going to be space and watering and the funding, right?
Well, I also, part of it, I can see is self-funded, because when we do have to spend on trees, we're finding out that we're spending quite a bit of money on these things. So,
Yes, they're not
that's
cheap.
part of the reason why this kind of idea has come about. Now, there are some requirements, and I think like the bag idea, one of the requirements of that is having easy access to water, because once that's out of the ground and sitting on the ground, they're gonna, with the hot Carolina sun, they're gonna dry out pretty regularly.
Right.
So, if you have easy access to water, you can do things like drip lines or stuff like that.
And that's what they proposed, yeah.
Okay. So, but then somebody was mentioning selling the trees, and I didn't know if this was really more intended to do something like that as a fundraiser, or that was just a Marsh thing, or if our intent is really to kind of propagate and grow these things for our own uses
Yeah.
around the village.
I think that's how it started. But again, can you do both? Should you do both, or should you be giving trees away? I think that's something to think about. And
I mean, if we're gonna, the reality, this is just my thought, something to consider. If we're talking about putting 250 trees and or shrubs into a nursery, and we continue to use that, so, it's a zero-sum game, you add 10,
50
you use 10, it seems to me we should have plenty of plant material to do fundraisers and to get people to plant in their yard. If you take, and I'd love to see that as part of this initiative, because if you go as an example of Tillamook, I keep using that, but that was a field. And most of the homes over there have no trees in them.
Front or backyard.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, they put in a home and they're vacant. And it would be great as part of this tree nursery to get people to engage and maybe buy trees and use it as fundraisers, or to help offset the cost of the tree nursery,
Well, exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
So, I just would love to see it be a multiple focus instead of a singular focus.
And I don't see how that could hurt, right? And if nobody ever buys a tree, fine. We'll go plant it over.
We gave it a go.
Yeah.
I have a question about location.
Yeah, well, that's a
What-
good question.
What did Keith mention about the space requirements for, say, a nursery of 200 trees?
I didn't ask specifically, but he's doing that, so he's doing bigger than
Okay.
that, so let me ask him specifically
Okay.
for how much. The trees the pictures that he showed me, honestly, the tree bags looked like they were about this big, right? So about 15-gallon size, right? Isn't that about? Yeah. And they were easily this far away from each other. I'm like, why are they not just on top of each other? I didn't, but there must be a reason, and I didn't bother to ask. Because I really wasn't even sure, there's no point in talking if we're not gonna do this. But if we're interested in finding out more information, I'll absolutely find out space, because either one is gonna take up space. And then we have to find a place to put that.
And it's really interesting that they're doing this at Porter Ridge, because
Or
I know.
Parkwood.
Parkwood, thank you. Because we had talked about putting the tree nursery at the park, and we already have space constraints at the park, because we need as much, I guess, surface land for parking for events as possible. So I don't know if putting a tree nursery at the park is the best idea. But the schools raise a very,
Could
that
we
is
share?
great opportunity, because look at how much land and open space there are around the schools. I'm not talking about within the playground area, but outside. There is tons of vacant land. I wonder what the process is that
That's
we
an interesting
could, say, put 50 trees at St. Marvin, put 50 trees at Sandy Ridge, put 50 at Rayview. Is that possible? What, are there security issues? Can it be, can we do it along the front, along the back, wherever the kids are not going to be? Because I would imagine for the care of the trees, that people are going to be over in the trees during the business day, during the school day. So,
When I was thinking about at the park, I wasn't necessarily thinking of taking one of the fields and dedicating it. I was thinking like around the circumference of the field.
around the wood line, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Either along the wood line or even along a parking area or one of the open fields, because some of them were pretty large, and if you just did the perimeter of one with the spacing she's talking about, you might be able to get 150 trees.
Oh, I don't think you need that space. Here's my only problem with that is watering.
Well, that's why I was thinking a drip line.
Yeah, but you're talking a huge drip line, and then you've got water pressure issues, and how do you get the water, and all that. It's not impossible. And if we got enough people to water, it wouldn't be that hard, but it's still, I can tell you that master gardeners struggle with keeping things watered in their greenhouse. It is an email I get every week, will somebody come and water these things? So it's an easy enough thing to do, but actually getting people to do it, it's apparently hard.
Just as a consideration, at Marsh Meadows,
We're gonna talk about that today, you and me.
apparently Tullamore's got a well, because there's a well cover close to the trail.
Okay?
And I don't know how close it is or not to Marsh Meadows, but it seems like if we use the meadows and ran drip line using the well, we could help pay the electricity. Because the water, you're not paying for water, you're paying for electricity and maintenance as well itself.
Right,
Which is very inexpensive.
Right.
Maintenance is negligible.
right.
If they would allow us to tap in, we would have the location and we would have the water.
I mean, I put it as a possibility. I like the school idea too. I would rather just pick one, right? And if we could find somebody that, like,
Was willing.
Marvin Elementary, right down the street, right? And just do it there, and they're all in one place. But anyway, things to think about there. No, all of those. So, are we thinking we want to go down more the above-ground soil version, or do you want me to do more research on the gravel thing?
I personally am very interested in the gravel thing,
That's
because.
Me too, but
Well,
that's because
because,
it's new and I've never done it before.
well, there's that, but, you know, for example, if you sign up with Arbor Day, they send you 10 bare root trees. They're little sticks.
In the mail.
In the mail. And Jackson and Perkins even, if you buy bare root roses, they don't even bag them anymore. They literally just throw them in a box and send them.
Fast-growing trees, same thing.
So, yeah, exactly. And so, you know, bare root trees at the right time of year, I mean,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Or
all of these at the right time of year. Yeah.
are extremely hardy, and then to eliminate the issues of heavy moving equipment, even for a 15-gallon bag, is still going to be, oh God, most of the bag rips, you know, is still going to be an issue. But if you can take that same tree and eliminate the soil and still have it with a good success rate, like.
And they grow faster,
Yes.
apparently.
Well, yeah.
And you can use
plants that I
that.
have grown in my life that have grown in gravel where I didn't want them to grow, and I have not been able to grow them in soil. So,
That's what they like.
yeah, exactly, the hyper drainage and everything like that. And then to your point about needing soil to plant, they're actually, if you get those Arbor Day trees, they tell you do not use potting soil.
Yeah, do not amend it, just put them in
Put
the
it in the
ground.
ground. So all they would have to do is
Bag
dig
mulch.
a soil hole, put the tree in it, and then backfill it with whatever they already took out. So actually, planting is easier because you don't even have to do as big of a.
And the tree, I'll say, either way.
I see a lot of benefits
yeah.
to that.
I want to send you the,
Is the clay though, because even digging a hole in some of our clay and then trying to use that.
Why no?
What you put back, that, I would think even that would be a challenge.
So every tree that we've planted with Arbor Day with Keith at the schools, trust me, the soil, if you want to call it that, at our public schools is unbelievable. It's so compacted, and that is exactly what we use. Some sweet person with an auger digs the hole, so we don't, I mean, it looks like a bowl, right? It's perfect. And we drop that, we put a little bit of soil back down the bottom.
So much for roughing the sides and all of that. No,
Yeah,
it's-
drop that tree down in there, we tease almost all of the soil off of it, so we make it almost bare root when we put it in, and spread it out as much as we can so it doesn't girdle, and then we put that other soil, you just knock it up a little bit if it's clumpy, put it right back in there, and then put a bag of mulch or two around it and call it. And so far, you know, and we go and check on them and stuff, they don't even probably get watered, and they survive. So they're tougher than you might, it's also about what trees you're planting. We're not planting little prima donna trees, they are tough
yeah, I
trees.
mean,
He's
especially
very
with the
careful about.
natives and things that we select.
But even within the native list,
Yes, there are some that are
he's
very-
reduced it down to, Keith has, to things that are super tough. And like sycamores, I got a hold of some of those and he goes, they will not do in that soil. It's not enough water for them. So anyway, but we could be a little more broad-minded and plant all kinds of things because they're gonna go in people's yards maybe, or in the side buffer areas where somebody might take a little bit better care of them than a bunch of
Yeah.
5-year-olds at school.
Yeah, and we could be very particular about which we select to.
Or
on-
what we
on a
can
couple-
get.
Yeah, and a couple of things is ones that will survive that treatment, and also, you know, the species that we sort of want to encourage being used.
Well, like the privacy thing that we've been talking about, some regular magnolias, the big, you know,
I wonder though if the magnolias have some pretty fleshy roots. I wonder if
I don't know.
because
That's-
they don't go dormant in the same
True.
way, so I don't know if they would work with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe a mix of the two approaches. If we want to grow magnolias, maybe they need to be bagged.
That is something to think about too, is trying both. Because the one is,
Why don't we do this?
yes, please, because we see her talking about stuff.
Why don't we, who would be willing to investigate the different options?
I will.
Grab a landlord and come back and make a recommendation to the committee. One of you or both.
Okay, so, but we are, this is a thing we want to do, okay?
It's great.
And so I think what I would like, I'm happy to do that and find out at least a preliminary cost, size, all that stuff. Be thinking about where we could put it. I'm thinking where the bamboo is, maybe,
That's hard.
at the park. It'll just come right back up through gravel though.
If we did want to use the schools, how would we proceed to
Well,
getting
we're
that
gonna be talking to
permission?
10 of them shortly, so, and they might not be really super close. Marvin Elementary's one of them, though. we've planted there before, so we have some contact with the schools. It's worth asking, right? The closest ones would be the best, because you're probably looking at the people who are gonna water it.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I also
I'm
think-
looking at the people. Yeah,
I
I'm
also
looking at
think-
the people.
Yeah, all of the people. I also think that the bare root option, if we are auctioning off trees, might be the easiest way to sell smaller trees.
Yeah. You just gotta show 'em.
Arbor Day does when it shows them in
Yeah.
your box and,
Yeah.
One of the
and,
things
yeah.
that I'm wondering is, you know, we want to build this to what it could be over 5 years, but I don't know if we need to jump into both feet of that. What if we were to try somewhere at the park in this first year?
Yep.
Right, because we still have some time if we do it on a small scale
Yeah, yeah,
and
true.
try a gravel way and try some above ground. And just see how that works for the maintenance of it. You know, kind of, you know, maybe we do 20 trees each way. You know, in a small area in the park this first year. Kind of see how, you know, staff and everybody feels they're maintaining, tracking their growth. And then next year is phase 2, and we're just kind of building that.
No, I think a trial program is, if we're interested in going forward with this, which I think I'm feeling like everybody is, then a trial program is good to test both methods without a whole lot of investment, and also to find out from staff and maintenance perspective, you know, how much of a pain or not that it turns out to be.
What do y'all think of a
Yeah,
trial
what are
run?
your thoughts as you're listening to us just?
Babble.
I mean, I think we can make anything work. We just need to have a good idea of the location and the logistics of how we get the water
Yeah.
to it, so,
So the location may be determined by water
Exactly.
availability, right?
exactly.
So if you guys would think about at the park, where is a location that we could do this? The best location would be that they get sun up until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon or so. So they don't get that really harsh afternoon sun in August, right? But that, obviously, water is important.
We'll check it out.
Yeah, see if there's a place.
Let me add, down there where the community garden is.
Yep.
The opposite side of
Yes.
where the Frisbee golf hole is,
Yes.
that'd be a perfect spot. And we also have a well down there that we could access.
It makes sense to put
Yeah.
it there too.
And now if you decide to do something in ground, that area stays damp all the time. It holds water real good in there.
That
So-
might be
That
helpful.
might be perfect for the gravel pit
All the way
anyway.
around. Okay, so that's a really good location to consider right there. I'll check out the sun movement there. I'll also check out sources for trees and what a trial run looks like versus what a real run looks like. Think also about how many trees do you want a year? And I know if we're just starting, that's different, but where are we going with this so that we don't find the perfect location and it only holds 20 trees? I mean, it's not the perfect location if it only holds 20 trees, because there's no point in doing this
This
with it.
first one might just be really for this test.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, but yeah, I think that where the spaces are can be a longer term thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, was down here where we have the well and the community.
Well, and that just makes perfect sense too, because you like things together. Okay, cool.
All right, so just to sum up and reiterate, you're going to investigate the gravel method.
I'm going to send you all that information that I've got too. It's extensive what they've
Okay.
done. So you can see the pictures. When I first read it, I'm like, no, I'm not doing, oh, it's very cool. You will love it.
All right, cool.
They pulled up trees that were probably maybe 5, 6 feet tall. They had roots out like this. As you all know, tree roots do this. They don't do this. They go out. And so those tree roots were able to do that. In a bag, they're not able to do that. And so
No,
it
so you
slows them
don't have the
down.
root bounding,
Yeah,
right,
it slows them
root binding
down.
and girdling
Yep.
issue. That's really cool.
Yep.
All right, so you're going to look up the gravel method. You will
And cost.
maybe, when you're with the schools, maybe just at least for information's sake, find out.
Are they interested?
Yeah, would they
Would they?
be willing to play? Okay, and then the rest of us are to sort of think long-term. Although I do think that if we commit to a trial run, we will learn a lot, and that may affect
Yeah.
dramatically what we think we can do.
Yeah,
So-
I wouldn't set anything in stone.
No, nothing in
Well,
stone, but
ever
just-
about anything,
No,
but yeah.
no. Okay, cool. All right, fabulous.
Awesome.
All right, moving on. The new business is.
It's me again.
It's you again, discussion of light pollution mitigation. So I was very excited when you said you wanted to add this to the agenda because this is, I mean, I'm not quite pickleball passionate about it, but I do feel pretty strongly about, you know.
Didn't know
when
that was a thing, but I feel you.
When, you know, you want to go watch meteor shower and we live here in Marvin and you would think maybe you could see something and then you are surrounded with people's floodlights at 2 in the morning.
24/7.
Yes. So tell us, what are your thoughts, Christina?
So I sent you guys an article that I have posted twice on our newsletter because this came back up again, and I'm like, why am I rewriting what I already wrote? And so I checked my URLs and resent it. And so January, that is my month for talking about light pollution because, I don't know, everybody still got their Christmas lights on and it's time to turn them off. Santa's gone. So what started all of this, other than the conversation that Jen and I had a couple weeks ago, is just noticing how many lights are on all the time. I mean, even during the day. I really don't understand that. But the fact, at least the data that I have looked at, and darksky.org is a great place to find information. Oh my God, you could read for 3 days all their stuff. There are issues for wildlife with lights being on at night. There are issues for even plants, not just animals, but plants. There have been studies that show that wildlife and flora and fauna both are affected by lights being on all the time. They don't know how to sleep. They don't go to sleep anymore, and all of their cycles get weirdly off. But I didn't know this. I thought it was just annoying to us humans. There are actually studies that are showing that having lights on all the time is adversely affecting human health too, which I just thought it was my mental health. I didn't think it was my physical health.
Well, when I get up in the middle of the night and I can navigate my house without any lights on, and it's not because we have a
It's not a full moon, yeah.
You know, and some people are super light sensitive when they sleep. I mean, my mother is so light sensitive she has to cover up the indicator light on her plug-in toothbrush. You know,
in another room.
Yes. So, you know, some people with more sensitive, you know, systems, you know, the light pollution really makes a big difference.
So,
and I think the rest of us who aren't even aware of it on that level are probably affected by it.
So there's the wildlife effect, the human effect, the energy costs, although LED lights have helped with that in a bad way. There's the issues around that most people say, well, I have to have all these lights on to keep crime down and to keep, I feel safer this way. There are actually studies on dark sky that say that it's actually the opposite effect in many cases. They showed one picture of a really well-lit garage or something, and then they put their hand in front of the light, so it blocked that from the view of the camera, and there was a person over in the shadows that you never saw because the light was so bright. You hide the light, and then you see the little creepy crawlies around the side there. So, you know, I mean, of course, they're going to make that statement because this is what they advocate for, right? And the final thing that they talk about is being able to see the stars. I can see the moon, but not too many stars here. So all of that said, we're a wildlife community, a certified wildlife community. I feel like this might be a thing, or this should be a thing that we are at least advocating for. Mm-hmm. And it's easy enough to say, would you please just turn your lights off? But that's not realistic. So they have, Dark Sky has what is called responsible practices. Responsible practices. And there's 5 things to think about. Is the light useful, or do you just have the light, this is my, shining up on your lovely home 24/7? Is it targeted? It needs to be targeted. And they've got a really nice graphic that shows, you know, the light that's like this versus like this, and then the one that's really targeted, and then the light that is only motion detector, like, so it only comes on when it absolutely is necessary. Use the lowest level of, I guess, lumens that you can stand, and control it with the motion sensor thing is the best. And then that is a warm color versus a blue color. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of studies that show I think it's the lower Kelvin light spectrum, the blue light spectrum, will keep your brain active
Looks like the blue light on your
It's
screen.
just
that
like
they
the
tell
one on
you-
your
yes.
screen to turn it off. So a warmer,
I think
warmer.
that's the high Kelvin, but yes.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
blue-
whichever
yeah,
one, yeah.
The blue end of the spectrum.
Yeah, the blue end of the spectrum will keep your hippocampus moving. The warmer end of the spectrum, so amber and yellow and red, that's what your night lights and stuff should be if you've got one for the bathroom or whatever. Anyway, so those 5 practices, at least implementing those can lessen some of this annoyance, I guess. I also looked up on Dark Sky to see if they had some kind of certification program, and they do. It was not very clear to me, and I didn't spend a lot of time looking for it. I mean, looking through it, but it does exist, and there are 31 dark sky communities in the U.S. So that is a thing. They're mostly out west, which makes some sense. But minimally, I thought we could start with our public areas by setting an example for the village hall and for the park. Are there lights at any of the greenways? No, any other public lights that we have, and set an example that we sort of follow this more targeted, not on all the time, not just showing, I think there are lights all over this building for, I'm not sure what the purpose of that is after 10 o'clock. There's something to think about there. And to share this information with the more than just in the newsletter, because it's not like I get a lot of cards and letters from that. But to share this information about how you can and why you should change the lighting around your space.
Have you happened to really kind of look at the lighting ordinance that the village already has?
No, I haven't, because I assumed there wasn't one, because there are so many lights on. I really, if there is one, I don't think my neighbors are following it.
I believe that you do have a lighting ordinance, right? We have, or is it just for subdivisions?
It's in our, I believe it's in our subdivision ordinance, and mostly regulates, I can't remember if it regulates lumens, but it regulates the types of lights that are allowed.
And it does talk about ones that go down versus up, so I would recommend as we kind of.
No, you're absolutely, yeah.
What the existing light ordinance is, and then that might be some conversations you have
No, I
with the
really,
planning board.
absolutely, 100%. If there is anything that says this instead of that, then the world needs to know.
For some reason, I seem to remember.
That would be awesome place to start. That's, you're not supposed to be able to do that.
Come on.
Encyclopedia boy.
Right?
I will definitely,
New subdivisions and enforce. I believe that's part of.
I think it's part of the design review board's discretion, which the planning board would be.
yeah, I'm not suggesting that people turn off all the lights. I mean, I would love that personally, but I don't live in La La Land, so I just would like the one that is literally 10 acres from my house that shines on my pillow at night and I can see it. I mean, I am not joking. How can that light be that bright unless you're on an airfield? Yeah. So, anyway, I wanted to throw this out here just to see how you guys all felt about it. I didn't even think about a lighting ordinance, so I will look into that. But if we are interested in at least promoting this, how would we do that? And she and I talked a little bit about, I don't know how you would enforce it.
I mean, if we have an
door to
ordinance,
door,
then
but
it's
you can-
technically enforceable,
Yeah.
but,
It sounds like in a design review world.
Well, and it also sounds a little bit, I mean, it's hard in this in the village to be too aggressive, like.
Right,
So where
anywhere.
where I was in California, they passed an ordinance that prevented people from burning fires of any kind on spare the air days, on bad, smog days. And, that's the kind of thing where your neighbors actually could call and rat you out if you had a fire in your fireplace, and that's just
We've had that
not
with-
this community.
Well, we've had that with water conservation
Yeah,
during the
and-
drought and stuff. I don't know if it was here. or it was
necessarily
in
want to
Charlotte.
get into that kind of a thing, but if we have ordinances on the book, then they're technically enforceable, which at least maybe with a letter gets people to.
Or just raise awareness.
But I think that's between, what we were talking about, I think that the target would be some sort of targeted education campaign, maybe dedicated emails as opposed to your thing in the newsletter suggestion?
As far as ordinances go, I doubt they're gonna go as far as you would like them to go.
Oh,
I
no,
would,
of
I would,
course.
I would encourage you to like sit down with Hunter and let him walk you
I
through
will.
what the ordinances say, because we are going through the UDO project right now, and that's really starting to wrap up, and the goal of that project is to make sure that our ordinances are legally sound, and we are not maximizing our control, but we're putting in the maximum amount of safeguards for future
Yeah.
development.
Yeah, no, good point, and it's a good time to do that. That's another reason I wanted to bring it up.
So I just looked up the general provision that's in there now, and it says outdoor lighting. Outdoor lighting shall be so located as not to reflect on adjacent property in a manner as to adversely affect the enjoyment of adjacent property or reflect on public streets in a manner as to endanger the motorists traveling the streets. All outdoor lighting installed or modified in any way after March 12, 2002 shall conform to the village outdoor lighting ordinance adopted March 12, 2002, as codified in chapter 95.
Well, that solves
So there is
some of our
something
problems.
that is basically there in the books. What the particulars are, I'm sure is deeper than that, but.
No, but that's a great place to start. Now, that does not address the idea that all the bugs and bunnies around your house are freaking out because you got, it looks like O'Hare at your house all the time. That's a different thing, and it's a real thing, and even the plants. But at least it's a step in the right direction, I think, to maybe talk about that. I don't know how do you market that? How do you promote that this ordinance exists? And because I didn't know it was there, and I'm sitting right here. I didn't know we had that. Didn't look too hard either, but I assume that most people don't realize that ordinance exists.
A couple of things that I can think of is a targeted education campaign of some kind, like dedicated emails to the people that are actually on the email list. I'm just brainstorming here.
Yeah, I'm writing it down.
Your marsh presentations.
Oh, yes.
For the people who aren't on email, maybe, if we sort of create this as sort of a very specific campaign, like an organized campaign, maybe a social media campaign, just not to browbeat people with the ordinance,
No.
but to say, hey, we have this ordinance, here's the reasons why it's a good thing, and please comply. There are a lot of people who will continue to ignore it, even if you bring it to their attention, but at least.
But if 10%
If
don't,
there's a certain number of people who are unaware, and we can target even some things to sort of, once again, just brainstorming, to bring it home, like when you're talking about the effects on plants, I'm thinking of poinsettias at Christmas. Those only turn red at Christmas time because of a very carefully controlled regimen of exposure to light. And if that's happening on purpose to make those red at Christmas time, imagine what your lights are doing to the plants outside. And then also, from my time in Florida, sea turtles get confused because they follow the moon, but all the street lights on the street side actually have them heading towards the streets instead. And so in Florida, they actually, when the turtles start hatching, they actually turn off all the coastal lights to prevent that from happening. And so maybe some anecdotal stuff like that would help people become aware. And if we can come up with anecdotes that actually relate to where we live here, that would be even better. But so that it doesn't feel like such an abstract thing.
right, exactly.
And not, so maybe we can entice the people who care a little bit.
We can absolutely do some sort of social media awareness campaign in the coming months. Definitely would rely on your expertise there, Christina. We'd want to get the council to sign on to it, and we would probably want to finish our bond campaign first, and Marvin Day, just because that's taking up a lot of our social media resources at the moment.
that's
But yeah, that definitely sounds like something we can do.
I was even thinking about a little plug on every newsletter. It's just a little, mind your lights or whatever our little slogan becomes, that just reminds people to turn them down or off or
I'll
something.
be the first one to say, I know nothing about this, okay?
Now you do.
But 90% of the evening lights are street lights,
That's why I wanted to
not
say.
individual lights, it's street lights.
Not in this neighborhood.
Not in my neighborhood. The houses in
I
my
would be
neighborhood,
interested to find out what that is.
Our neighborhood, 95% is street lights.
they're not lighting up their homes?
Yeah, but they turn them off at night.
Oh,
My
yes,
streets don't.
ours don't.
And we don't have any streetlights
We
in
have
my neighborhood.
ours on timers.
Yeah, you would think.
We had the Woodland Garden, we light it up, we enjoyed being out there with the fire pit.
Yeah.
And at 11 o'clock, 11:30, you guys.
No,
That's exactly the kind of thing we would like to see people doing.
Yes.
So if people are doing that, that's great.
Yes, an activity, I guess the reason I bring that up is if 90%, I'm just making these numbers, I know nothing about this. Let's say 90% of the light at night is affecting animals and plants, or street lights. And different color lights affect plants and animals differently. Then what kind of lights do we currently have in Marvin as street lights? So if we find that our street lights are more detrimental to plants, so on and so forth, why couldn't we look at changing the amber or the color or whatever it is that you're talking about, where we start affecting 90% versus 10%?
well, and that's what I was talking about. Start with our public lights, the village, the park, and to your point, streetlights. My street's not owned by Marvin, so I don't think about that. So if they're Marvin controlled, let's call it that, then yeah, that's where I would start and just go do it. Just, do an assessment and figure it out. Who would know these things?
I would start with Hunter and
Okay,
Christina.
that's
Putting up street lights is complicated. We went through a whole process with Union Power and UCDOT, and they both have their own regulations on this. I'm not sure what hues of lights are.
No, that's fine. That's who I'll talk to.
Incorporated into their plans. I've seen purple lights in the Pacific Northwest, which are very nice, but I don't know what's included under DOT and Union Power's regulations.
Okay.
And we don't, I don't think we have a lot of streetlights specifically within the village of Marvin. There's probably a couple of them, but I know in our neighborhood, the HOA handles the streetlights, and I think that's the case in many of the different subdivisions
That's what I would assume.
where they.
We have them on some power poles. We have them at the roundabouts.
Roundabouts for sure.
We were one of the first municipalities to implement those types of lights in roundabouts, and now that's becoming DOT standard because they've been shown to promote better pedestrian safety and especially improving driving conditions at night. So that would definitely be something we'd have to research, but.
Yeah, they're not great for the people who live near them, though. Trust me. I don't live near one of those, but I talk to someone who does.
Driving through them.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, I think it's a balance between the very real concerns of safety. You do need to have
Of
things
course.
eliminated. And then there are some security issues, although the point about, too bright of lights may be a detriment, but we're going to be trying to strike a balance. And I think that adding to the brainstormed lists of ways to get this message out, to John's point, the HOA
Yes, thank you.
outreach
Yes.
is going to be a huge prong of that, because when Bob was saying like 90% of the lights, and I get your point with, we can have a great impact by working on the street lights, I think was your point, which is excellent. But that triggered obviously in me a response of going, well, I think all the lights are in the neighborhoods, not stuff that we have control over. So that impact will probably have to go to the neighborhoods.
Right. So I'd say, focus on the things we have most control
Control over
over,
for us,
and then
yes.
go down the list. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
All right, so, so going forward, we'll revisit
Yes.
that,
I'll-
right?
I'll-
Do you guys want this agenda item on another meeting coming forward, or do you
Yes.
want to have some time and research?
No,
that
I want it
when-
next time.
Just next
because
meeting?
Just keep,
She'll research
if
and
you don't
report
push,
next
I will
time.
not do.
Okay, re-add to next meeting,
Yes.
okay.
All right, B boxes at Marvin Efford Park.
It's not me.
This one is John, I believe.
Well, actually, it comes from our prior council liaison to Parks and Greenways, Kim Vandenberg, had brought this up. And I think she was recently down in Ballantyne, and I don't know if you've ever been down to where the medical plaza is, kind of, once you take a left, kind of, if you're heading to 485, you go back. And there's actually a fenced-off area that has 3 beehives in there that someone obviously maintains for them.
Like for honeybees.
For honeybees. She kind of had the thought that you just get a hive, one of these hives, and you just plop it there and the bees will come. This is actually the 3rd year we've actually had bees on our property that, and I kind of said to her, it's not really as simple as that. There's a lot of work, and the only way that you could even really be successful at it is if you probably had someone that volunteered who is an actual beekeeper that would come and maintain those hives for you. It's the same thing, a lot of people, with open land and stuff like that. Oh, somebody come put bees on my property, because, there's lots of good impacts to it. You get the honey from it, all of those type things. So she brought this up as an idea that, perhaps somewhere on the park or somewhere it might be a cool thing to put the bees there. Again, you have to put them kind of in an enclosure if they're going to be in a public place. You do also have some cons. There are people that are severely allergic to bees, so the placement of it, you wouldn't want it necessarily right next to a trail or something like that. So if you're doing that, are you putting it in a place where people can see it? They do have a lot of pros. They help to propagate the plants and everything in different areas. But she did ask that this be brought up, as a topic of conversation, whether, the PR&G might think it's a good idea or not.
So question, why honeybees?
Versus other types of bees, because they're the only ones that are really kind of domesticated and focused on their jobs and what they do, that they're not typically a nuisance to people. They're like I said, domesticated in most cases. So, I've gotten to the point where I can walk up to them without a bee suit on and they don't bother me.
I'm not worried about stinging.
Whereas most other types of bees are aggressive.
Oh, that's, sorry, not true at all. Yeah, most of them aren't, actually.
Well, they're
it's
more
the
aggressive.
ones
Yeah.
who live in hives tend to be more aggressive than the solitary. Like bumblebees, you have to literally
Yeah.
put your hand around to get
Yeah,
to them.
bumblebees aren't
And
an
that's
issue.
what we see
and
most of the time
yeah.
around here. So I guess my,
I'm talking more hornets and wasps
yeah, oh,
and
no,
those
yeah,
type
they're
things.
nasty little
They're
creatures. Yeah. So we have a pollinator garden. I've kind of renamed the cottage garden a pollinator garden because that's what it is. And if you were over there in, say, August, during pollinator week, there was a big pollinator count in August. It was absolutely overrun. I mean, I could not keep count of the things that were everywhere. So we do have bees at the park that nobody has to manage, right? I mean, you don't have to do anything to them. Well, I gotta make sure we have some things that are blooming. But other than that, we have lots and lots and lots of bees. Most of the time, I would say 90% of those, maybe more, aren't gonna bother anybody.
No.
I mean, and some of them were so tall, so high up, little 5-year-olds weren't gonna be able to touch them anyway, so it wouldn't matter. I don't know anything about honeybees except that they're not native.
Yeah,
And-
most of those that you probably see in that garden are from people that have hives.
Oh, I
anywhere
rarely
to-
see a honeybee
a-
over there. That's
Anywhere to 3 to 5 miles away, because
Yeah.
that's when a bee lives in a hive, they travel anywhere to up to 3 to 5 miles every day to go collect,
Well, and I figure there must not
pollen
be
and
any
nectar.
too close to the park because I don't see a lot of honeybees in that garden at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all
Natural
native guys.
bees, too,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, John, as somebody who keeps bees, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, would the village get any benefit out of this
I-
in exchange for the effort?
You might get a little bit of honey, but generally, if you had a professional beekeeper taking care of them, my concern would be more that while they're typically non-aggressive, it's going to become an attraction. And with a lot of kids around, it becomes an attraction for kids. Even where it is in the Ballantine Medical Plaza, they've got a 12 by 12, fence around it,
Well, I mean, that makes sense.
chain link fence.
Because it's not one bee.
No,
right?
no.
It's a house of bees.
Each one of those has about 30,000 bees in it.
Yeah. So you're always going to have a lot of bees around it.
Yeah, so just the experience that I've had too, just in the last couple of years of doing it, is that it's not even something staff would maintain. You need a,
They're like freaking out.
you need a bee, you need a beekeeper. And then the other thing is, a lot of people don't know that they can be allergic to bees until they've actually been
Then
stung.
they find out.
So, that can be the concern too, when you have a lot of kids running around. And if you're just putting it to kind of hide it somewhere so people don't see it, I mean, then what's kind of the point of it? Versus, if you put it somewhere where people are going to be attracted to it, it's a nuisance kind of as
If we're trying to educate
well.
about bees, we can do that in different ways, and there might be a honeybee that flies through over there, but we've got an area that we can educate people about bees, if that's what, or insects, if that's what we're about, if that's what she's thinking. So I'm just not sure what her why is.
Yeah, well, what I'll do is I'll go back to the board and I'll mention to Kimberly that, we had the discussion around it, but I'll mention the cottage garden as already having naturally kind of been a big, area that if people want to see bees, we know where they are.
Yeah. And even that little section of plants that's near where the shed is, and that big parking lot in the back, it's calamint, I think, that is in there. It is overrun with bees. I mean,
Yeah,
it just
certain
moves.
types of things, they're just
They're
attracted to like
for it.
crazy, yeah.
Anyway,
So yeah, if her why is that, we should have more bees,
yeah, I got you covered.
then we can just
Plant
promote
more
more
flowers.
pollinator
Yeah.
planting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think we'll be well, and we can.
And promote that.
And promote that and do that in our village-owned plantings, like when we do that triangle by the roundabout and so on and so forth. We can encourage just bees everywhere, but unless she has a more compelling
She
why
wants some
other than
honey.
just sort of like
Marvin honey.
Right, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly where she, if she thought it was easy, then maybe she just thought it was like,
Well, and I think
super
that's
easy,
part of
let's
it.
do it. But
It-
what
I,
I'm
it- I
hearing-
thought it was a lot easier before I started
Not
doing
easy
it
at
myself,
all,
and
yeah.
it's,
So given your experience,
but
what
my
I'm
dad
hearing is
is a
that
beekeeper.
I'm not hearing a lot of benefit for the input,
Work.
for the work required. So-
and you'd almost have to outsource it to somebody that, is gonna come and take care of the
Now,
hive
if they water
there.
the tree nursery and keep the bees,
Yeah, maybe we can get a package deal other than that. So yeah, I'm definitely pro bee and pro pollinator, but it sounds like a lot of work for the rewards I'm seeing we can accomplish, I think, just by promoting pollinator plants in a variety of ways.
did you have questions?
So I would add, as my dad keeps bees and I lived through, he doesn't anymore.
Lives through.
Lived through it, and
I
it is, my
survived.
grandfather did it. It is extremely time consuming, as I'm sure you're learning. And I would say the difference here between the Ballantyne Park and the Marvin Eford Park, Ballantyne is an active park. Marvin Eford is a passive park, so we don't have someone there monitoring the bees all the time, and I think.
Well, and it's actually in their parking lot. It's
Right,
like in an
the-
island
so
of the parking
we have
lot.
Staff around there all the time, making sure that no one's hurting the bees or causing problems or vandalizing anything, and I just think that this would just not be a good fit for Marvin Eford.
Bee vandalization.
I mean, can you imagine, some teenagers who,
Oh,
Oh, let's go get some honey, and then
let's go
they're
get
like
some honey.
stung
I mean,
30,000 times.
I can
and-
imagine
yeah, no,
what
that's-
kids will be into. So I think if we want more bees, let's plant more pollinator-friendly plants and flowers and enjoy them that way.
And again, some more, public education
Absolutely.
to further it. So, no, I think it's a good idea, but I think she was probably thinking it was easier than it was.
Because it looks
Okay.
pretty easy. There's a
Yeah.
lot of honey out there in the world.
Well, encouraging mason bees, you just put the,
Just build a house.
you just build the house, and they do come.
Yes.
But I guess honeybees are a little bit different. Okay, so that gets us down to review of action items.
To which we have added a list.
Yeah.
Well,
Have you been keeping up, Austin?
a lot of this falls on Christina today.
Yeah, well, she has a big
uh,
mouth.
So let's see. You're going to do more research on growing trees in gravel pits, including
And not,
and not,
and the other way.
including the cost, necessary resources, essentially what it would take for us to get this off the ground. And I can't remember, did you guys say you wanted to look into partnerships with schools, or was that just
Maybe for space.
for space?
That's one of our options for space. And so when we're doing our,
while they're at the schools,
yeah, when we're doing the Arbor Day thing, or through those contacts.
just to find out what would be involved.
As far as light pollution mitigation, talk with Hunter, kind of see where the ordinances lie, go into the UDO, and then from there, we can work on a social media campaign, post-bond, post-Marvin Day.
Yeah.
And
It'll take us that long.
And as far as the B-boxes go, John, we'll take this feedback back to council, and we can talk about ways to promote more naturally occurring bees.
Natural bees.
Natural.
We're going to be bee ranchers.
All right.
I'm not wearing that costume.
Oh, you would be
I'm envisioning it
such
now.
a cute pollinator.
Hold, please.
Okay. Give me a moment to get that out of my mind.
No, leave it there. It's beautiful.
Okay, review of ongoing action item list. Do we have any ongoing action items?
Very briefly, let's see, well, we're working on the tree farm still. We, obviously, if we do move forward with that, we'll need the policy and budget. We'll need to create a policy for how those trees would be used and maintained, and an annual budget for that. That's something that we probably won't touch for a while, since we're still in the early research.
We're still very
Researching.
exploratory.
And the other one was about the resource used by realtors to determine home sales. I know, John, you were looking into that, and you said you found it.
that
I
was
don't
the
remember
local
where we
track,
were on that, honestly.
I probably need to get to Kimberly because she thinks she has access to the tool
Okay.
that I discussed with her. So I'll follow up with her about that.
Yeah.
That's all that's here.
All right, awesome. All right, fabulous. Any additional comments? I think we've all kind of commented ourselves out, but John's not done yet. Okay, all right.
I have one.
Yeah, sure.
I was contacted by, next to the park, one of our neighbors. He would be kind of behind where the bathroom is, on the other side of where the bamboo is, we've been clearing.
Other side of the bamboo.
His name is Matthew Edwards, and he called me because he loves the park. He's very supportive of it and everything, and enjoys the activities that they have there. He utilizes the park quite a bit. But he did ask that his house is pretty close to where our property line is there. And as we've started to clear out a bunch of the bamboo and stuff like that, he's not looking for anything on his side, on his property or anything. But he did ask that as we may add some trees, shrubs, things of that nature, especially because he's kind of right behind the bathroom and playground, if we would consider, as we plant any trees back to where we cleared just to create a little bit more of a buffer, because especially they're putting in the new playground, things like that, and that and the bathroom are really kind of right close to his residence there, that we might consider, helping to build a better buffer, or at least not trim things down as much as we kind of have in the past to clear things out and leave a little bit more natural buffer to him there. But he did, again, want to say that, he feels we've been great neighbors, and that's why he reached out to me instead of complaining to staff or anything like that.
Nice.
And just asked that we would consider that.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of right back into that pocket of do our tree nursery so that we can
Correct.
meet those kinds of requests from residents.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes, it's something evergreen. All right.
Yeah, evergreen type things, work great in a situation like that. But-
Evergreens are required by our ordinance
And-
for screening anyway.
And we want to be good neighbors too, I told him, and I told him that I'd bring it up to the board and we'd discuss around with staff and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think.
And
that-
again,
that's
it's only things that we would improve on village property. He's not asking for, screening or anything on his side.
Are you guys aren't clearing out the bamboo that's over on his side? No, it's not in his property, but that buffer there where they're like trees. Because as much as I don't love bamboo, it is kind of pretty over there, and it serves a purpose for the poor guy at the bathroom,
Yeah, we were just going to address the portion that's,
where the old oak tree was.
right, that's on our side of the walking trail itself.
Yes. Yeah, so they're working on that, and is it, how long ago the old oak tree was cut down, right?
Yeah.
And look how fast that stuff has just, it's 5 feet tall, some of it.
Oh, I bet it's probably 10, 12 feet tall, maybe higher.
Okay, see, I haven't been there for 2 weeks.
Let me add also that in the past, before Mr. David or myself got here, he wanted a buffer along his property on the trail. And for whatever reason, Marvin done it, and for whatever reason, he's pulled those trees up. on his own, so,
Really?
yeah. So, I'm not sure, what the purpose of it was or why, but they're gone, and none of our guys have messed with him. He pulled them up on his four-wheeler.
Yeah, I don't.
That's
Are we
interesting.
sure, are we sure we're talking about the right property, or the
Yeah,
same,
yeah,
not,
yes,
right,
ma'am.
the same property? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Interesting.
That might bear some investigation.
Yeah, yeah. Those trees that were planted there were on his property line or ours?
Yeah, on his.
On his side?
Yeah,
Well, and
he-
obviously he's got,
He wanted a buffer from the trail going through his backyard, and Derek accommodated it and got them planted for him, and for whatever reason, they're gone now. He got rid of them.
okay. I wonder if that's why then he's in particular motivated to reach out to ask us to screen on our side.
Well, he rides his four-wheeler over to the park all the time.
Okay,
I don't know if that's just his path to get through there, because don't go on the road, he comes in through the woods.
right.
I don't know if he done it to make his path or what, I don't know, but. either way,
Interesting.
But that kind of makes some sense,
Yeah,
yeah.
Marvin did help him out, and he's,
All right, well, those are
That's good to know.
both interesting points. We'll keep those in mind, I guess.
Yeah,
as we go
I'll
forward.
follow up with him as well, just
Yeah,
to say we
appreciate
had the
that.
conversation.
That's a little
Okay.
odd.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
all right. Any more comments? All right,
Lord, no.
so do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second?
second.
Second? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Did you say amen? Okay. Oh, okay,
You know what, I was talking about the state presentation, I forgot we already said it to Village Hall. It hit me, like, after I sent you that email, did you see
oh,
that?
no,
email
I didn't
sent you?
see it. So, yeah, we're here. Yeah.
Yeah, we're here, okay, yeah, I sent you an email, it was a, it was a couple weeks ago.
Oh, good Lord. Okay, yeah, I probably lost it in the
I
fray.
lost it,
Yeah, sorry.
I'll find it, I'll resend it to you, but, no, now I know we're here, we're good.
Okay.
Because I told Eric I wasn't sure on location, and I forgot, oh my gosh, let me look back at our thing.
Well, you mean for the butterfly presentation?
We're here butterfly, and here for snakes.
Oh, snakes, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
because we
good.
gotta be inside.
Yeah, yeah,
But then the other stuff, like in the summer with the barn, right, and then the fall, because the weather will be good,
yeah.
which will be perfect.
Oh, jacket. Yes, exactly.
So, and then I just need to know what you wanna do for